I have dozens of credit cards, but if I had to get rid of all but 5, these are the ones that I would keep. And based on what the average American spends, this setup will earn you over 180,000 points a year. And to put that in perspective, this can cover 5 nights of vacation at a luxury all-inclusive resort in Mexico with round-trip plane tickets for 2. But more on that one later. Now, this first card is probably the most unique card on the list, which is why I'm going to be making a dedicated video on it in the future. Now, the Fasten card came out in April 2025, and it is the only card on the market that covers car expenses in this way. An insane 3 times points on pretty much anything and everything cars, including auto loans, leases, insurance, and even gas. Considering there is no other card on the market that offers something like this, it's basically a no-brainer if you have any one of these things that you spend a lot of money on, or like literally any money at all spent on these things for that matter. The average American pays $682 a month on auto loans, so mathing that out equals about $81,084 per year. And at 3 times points back, this totals to 24,552 points earned per year. Already we are off to a fire start, but this next card is even more valuable for the right people, or should I say renters. And that is the Bilt MasterCard lineup. Bilt is the only major card out there that lets you earn points on rent with no transaction fees. However, you do need to spend some Bilt cash, but I'll get into more of that later. And you don't have to live at a massive apartment complex or something in order to take advantage of this. Even if your landlord is one of those cash is king types of people, you can literally go and get a MoneyGram money order or even write a personal check and still earn the same reward as if you transacted just through the credit card itself through their Bilt Alliance program. So if you're someone like me that lives in an apartment complex that is a part of the Bilt Alliance, it is as streamlined as making your current rental payment through Bilt's online portal. However, it is important to note that this is not charged through the line of credit, and instead it'll be charged through your bank as an ACH, but you will still be eligible for rewards. Technically, you don't even need the credit card to earn those points if your building is a part of that alliance. But the card itself really does bring a lot to the table. And those points aren't just cash back either. They're legit travel points that can transfer to partners such as Hyatt Hotels and Atmos Rewards. They also do something on the first of every month they call Rent Day. For one single day, you will earn an insane 6 times points back on dining, which basically beats out every single card on the market for one day of the month. But it is capped at 1,000 points per month. Quick side note, under Bilt 2.0, rent points aren't automatic. You'll actually unlock 1,000 points for every $30 in Bilt cash that you earn, which can come from card spend, bonuses, or promotions. And once you unlock those rent points, you will get 1 point per dollar that you spend on rent. Now, Census.gov reports the average American renter pays $1,487 a month on rent. So, mathing, that is $17,844 per year. So at 1 times points back, this totals to 17,844 points earned per year. And to state the obvious, if you don't rent, this card does not apply to you. But this next category definitely does, and the average American spends over $10,000 a year on it. Now, this card right here was the easiest to pick on the list, and that's the American Express Gold Card. It is my one-stop shop for anything and everything food. Groceries, restaurants, you name it, I'm using the Gold Card. Why? Because it earns 4 times points at restaurants, including dine-in, takeout, and delivery. And at US supermarkets, it earns those 4 times points up to $25,000 a year in spend. So as long as you're not shopping exclusively at Erewhon, then you should be good. Plus, it even earns 3 times points back when flights are booked directly with a US airline. The other part of this card that most people don't normally mention is that you get access to American Express's transfer partners by having this card, and can even transfer your points out to those partners. Meaning, even if you don't have an Amex Platinum card, you can still do a lot of the awesome travel reward arbitrage strategies that are out there, which require Amex points to do. But that is an entirely different video. Now, this card does have a $325 annual fee. However, a certain lifestyle can easily justify this with things like $7 a month for Dunkin', $10 a month for Uber, $10 in just a general dining credit, a resi credit, a hotel credit. I mean, there's a lot of credits and a lot of stuff. Now that's over $450 in total credits, which for the right type of person, someone like me, or perhaps you, it is way worth the fee that it takes to actually get this card. So if you can offset the cost with these, then the 4X can be an amazing bonus. Now the best uses for this card are going to be anything food delivery, and groceries. Plus, I highly recommend that you review all of the credits and figure out which ones work for you prior to just going out and getting this card randomly. Meaning, if you don't know that you won't use the credits, then realistically, you can get a 3 times point multiplier on categories like dining with other cards like the build card that we just talked about, or even some future cards later on in this video. With that said, the Census.gov reports that the average American household spends $6,224 a year on groceries and $3,945 a year on restaurants. So at 4 times points back on each of these categories, that totals to over 40,000 points earned per year. Now let's be real. Everybody spends money on food, but not everybody travels regularly. However, those that do can easily expect the most value from this next card. This next category, being travel rewards, has a special place in my heart because the Chase Sapphire Preferred and I have had a long-standing relationship with one another, and it's been mutually beneficial. This thing has been a part of my wallet since I was in college, mainly because of its low annual fee and straightforward way to make it back up. Even with some of the point multipliers like 5 times on Chase Travel and 3 times points on dining, the major key to this card is that it unlocks transfer partners within Chase's lineup. Some of my favorite partners are Hyatt Hotels and United Airlines, but really there are so many ways that you can book some incredible flights and stay at some amazing properties all over the world using the Chase Transfer Partner Network. Because yes, it does earn 3 times on dining, but it's nowhere near as good as the Amex Gold 4 times on both dining and groceries. Now this card has a $95 annual fee, which is much easier to offset thanks to simple automatic perks like their $50 annual hotel credit, a DoorDash yearly membership, plus $10 a month towards DoorDash, and even partner benefits like Instacart, Lyft, and GoPuff. Now, you know that old saying, when you know, you know. Well, in my opinion, this card is the #1 card that I have in my wallet, and I knew it from the moment that I got it all those years ago, back when I had hair. Long before my first week-long trip to a 5-star all-inclusive resort in Mexico, staying completely on Hyatt points, or when I took my first-class flight on ANA's Pokemon-themed flagship flight from the US to Japan that I booked on Virgin Atlantic miles, again, transferred from my Sapphire card. Now, truly, I have to thank this card for so many trips and memories because of how valuable their points have been consistently for so many years, especially Hyatt, which has a cent per point value normally over twice what it should be, even when you don't know what you're doing. Okay. All right, rant over. All of that travel stuff aside, let's get down to actually earning the points needed to do all this awesome stuff. Census.gov reports that the average American household spends $2,478 a year on travel, and if booked through Chase Travel, this totals to 12,390 points earned per year. Now, the last 4 categories were auto, rent, food, and travel, but what about all of the other stuff that doesn't match any of those categories? That leads me to my 5th and final card in my wallet, which is my favorite everyday spending card out there, the Chase Freedom Unlimited. This is my go-to card for all of that random everyday stuff that the other cards really just don't reward well. The CFU earns 1.5 times points back on everything that you buy, regardless of the category, and even has a few multipliers as high as 5 times points back. But when compared to other cards, the main winner on this particular card is the 1.5 times back on everyday spend. Now, in a world where we're seemingly nickeled and dimed for everything, this card thankfully has no annual fee. Plus, it pairs perfectly together with the Chase Sapphire Preferred to supercharge your travel game with even more points to use for flights and hotels. So if I'm ever left wondering what card should I be using here, this is the one that I pull out of my wallet. And to clarify, the best use for this card is when you're buying things that don't already fit a special category already covered by the other cards we mentioned. Meaning, if you're using your card to buy something that's not related to your car, paying rent, buying food, or traveling, this is 9 times out of 10 going to be the card that you should use. So that Marcus Aurelius bust that you've been eyeing, you'd want to purchase that using the Chase Freedom Unlimited. Now, I've got to say, this one legitimately blew my mind. The Census Gov reports the average American household spends $58,235 per year on everything else. This is what the average American spends minus what we've already covered. Crazy. Being conservative and assuming there's no other multipliers that apply, at 1.5 times points back, this totals another 87,353 points earned. And that brings our grand total to 182,815 points that we could use after spending all of that money throughout the course of the year. And that doesn't even include the credits and other perks that come with all of these cards that I've mentioned. Now, at the beginning of this video, I told you that this amount of points covers 2 round-trip flights and a 5-night stay at an all-inclusive Mexico luxury resort. So here's the proof. This junior suite at the Secrets Tulum Resorts and Beach Club, you can get for 5 nights for a grand total of 125,000 Hyatt points. And in case you've never been to a Secrets property, I've been to them all over Mexico at this point, and they consistently have high-quality food, luxury atmospheres, and this one is adults only. And as far as flights, there really are a lot of different options that are out there, but for this example, I chose leaving from Dallas. You can book both round-trip tickets leaving from DFW to TQO for just 13,800 Qantas miles each, meaning both to Mexico and from Mexico, totaling 55,200 Qantas miles in total for 2 people. So in total, this would be 125,000 points for the 5-night stay that you can transfer from Hyatt and 55,200 points for the flights that you would transfer to Qantas, totaling 180,200 miles. So when all is said and done, this is going to leave you with just over 2,000 points to roll over into next year's trip. Okay, so for any of the cards that I mentioned, quick disclaimer is that you'll generally want at least a 680 credit score before applying. And if you're below that, don't worry. I'll be making a video soon on the best beginner credit cards to start out with when it comes to building your credit. These 5 cards cover all of your spending: cars, rent, food, travel, and everyday spend as well. You really don't need a huge stack of cards. You just need the right ones working together. And if this has helped you build your setup, check out the links below for the cards that we talked about and subscribe for more videos like this one.